What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Ryan Hafey with Hafey Digital here. Now, if you're like me, you enjoy filmmaking, video production, all that kind of stuff, you've probably seen videos or seen people with camera rigs that are just these giant, massive things that sit on their shoulder, and they've got all these cables and attachments and audio equipment and monitors and all that kind of stuff on them. And they look pretty cool. They also look a little intimidating. I know that when I make videos, whether for myself or for clients, I typically just use a camera just like this. Maybe I'll put it on a gimbal. Maybe I'll throw a microphone on it, but that's about it. But nevertheless, I always think those camera rigs look really cool, so I thought it would be fun today to make my own custom camera rig. And not just any camera rig, this is gonna be the Frankenstein's monster of camera rigs. By the way, I hope you like my new shirt. I plan on opening a lemonade stand later. But before we get started, there are 2 rules that I'm giving myself here. Number 1, rule number 1, it's gotta be functional. It has to be useful. So we can put a bunch of bells and whistles on it, but if it's not usable, then what's the point, right? Rule number 2 is that I can only use gear that I own. So whether those are connectors or microphones or monitors, whatever they may be, I have to own them. They have to be in my possession in order for them to go on this camera rig. So now that we have the rules, let's talk about what needs to go on this rig. What are we gonna put on this camera rig that's gonna make it usable, but also just make it look like this massive. So let's erase the board here. Okay, rig needs, oops, I misspelled needs. See, rig needs. So for starters, we want a monitor of some kind. We wanna put some sort of field monitor on it so that we can see what we're looking at. Because a lot of the time, especially with these big camera rigs, you got so many things going on. You might even have something blocking the LCD screen on the back of the camera. So we want an external monitor that we can review while we're filming. Number 2, audio. We need some sort of audio solution on this. That could be a shotgun mic, probably just mostly a shotgun mic. Number 3, I'll call stability. Something that will allow us to have control over the camera, whether that be some kind of a handle or maybe some makeshift shoulder rig. And number 4, whatever the hell else we can think to put on it. All right, so we've got the rules. We know we need to, this thing was like $2. I probably shouldn't throw it around the room. All right, so we've got the rules. We know what we need to put on the rig, so let's get started. So what I have here is an assortment of gear and accessories and adapters and whatnot that I may or may not put on the rig. I don't know, I haven't decided yet. I haven't put this together, so I don't know exactly what's gonna go on there. I don't know how it's gonna look in the end, but these are the things that I think I will want to incorporate in some way, shape, or form. And the heart and soul of this camera rig is going to be this right here. This is the Sony a7 III. On the a7 III body is a 35mm Samyang, aka Rokinon cinema lens. I only put this lens on because it makes it look a little more cinema-y. Also on the a7 III body is a small rig cage, and it's equipped with a number of 1/4 inch and 3/8 inch adapters. So I can adapt and mount just about anything that I want to on here as long as I have the right adapters for it, which I do. I've got a little baggie full of 1/4 inch adapters here and some 3/8 adapters as well. So we should be able to put a good number of accessories on this rig. So without further ado, let's just dive right in, shall we? Okay, so right off the bat, the issue that I'm having with some of these small rig adapters, these little 1/4 inch adapters, is that they only screw in so far. You can't say turn certain things certain ways and expect them to stay there. They're going to turn as far as the threading will allow. So it's making it difficult to get things on the rig and positioned the way that I would like. So a slow start, but we'll just keep going. These adapters are really stuck on there. All right, watch this. I'm going to use these clamps. Ooh. Like a set of pliers, watch. Oh my God, it worked. Look at that. All right, you can come off now. Thank you. So this is turning out to be more of a pain than I had anticipated already. So let's start there. If I have that there, where could this go? God, I forget about that. This one, should I have? All right, so this thing is taking a bit longer than I had originally expected. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna shut off the cameras and work on this thing behind the scenes. And when it's done, we'll do the big reveal and I'll tell you what each individual accessory is, why it's on there, what it does, and maybe even put it to use. Deal? All right, cool. So things took a little bit longer than expected, but we got the camera rig done. It's all put together, mission accomplished. So without further ado, let me introduce you to what I'm calling HAFEY CAM 810. And here it is. Now for starters, why call it the HAFEY CAM 810? Well, when I first weighed the camera without all the rig accessories on there, meaning just the lens, the body, and the small rig cage, it weighed 3 pounds, 12.5 ounces. However, with all these different accessories and gear loaded onto the camera, it now weighs 8 pounds, 10 ounces, hence HAFEY CAM 810. Look for it in a store near you. So let's talk about all the different features and accessories that are on this rig, and to do that I'd like to refer back to the list that I made at the beginning of the video of rig needs, starting with audio. So for starters, let's turn the camera around here and I'm going to show you this, which is a audio recorder. It's a little portable audio recorder. It's the Tascam DR60D Mark II, in case you're wondering. And by the way, links to all the different things, or at least most of them, will be in the description down below. So the cool thing about this audio recorder is that it's got a 1/4-inch adapter on the bottom, but also another one on the top, and you can attach things to it and tighten them via this little wheel here, which is how I was able to mount this monitor on top, which we'll get to in a moment. And plugged into this audio recorder, I have the Rode VideoMic Pro. Now these Rode mics are great to begin with, but plugging it into this audio recorder is going to give me a little bit more flexibility as far as just kind of tuning in the audio exactly how I want it. Also plugged into the audio recorder is just a pair of iPhone headphones. Nothing too high tech there, but they work just for being able to monitor what you're hearing. Also on this rig over here, you will see a Rode, oh, what's this one? Video Micro. Now you may notice that the Video Micro here is aimed backwards towards me, the camera operator, while the VideoMic Pro is aimed forward in the direction of the lens, and there's a good reason for that. And that reason is that it gives me the ability to capture audio in both directions. If you're familiar with these Rode mics at all, you know that they do a great job at picking up audio in front of them, but they're not so great at picking up audio behind them, and that's by design. But that's exactly why I put this Video Micro aimed back at me, because let's say that I'm filming a subject. I want to obviously be able to hear the subject, but let's say I also want to hear my audio. If I'm having some sort of back and forth commentary with them, having this Video Micro aimed back at me allows me to capture audio in both directions. Say something.
Hi.
Boba. Hello, Boba. And instead of plugging the Video Micro into the sound recorder, I just have that going directly into the camera body. Audio check. Now let's move on to monitors. We need something to be able to see what we're recording, because this little LCD screen on the back of this camera with all this gear and accessories on it is just not going to work. So we have here a newer 7-inch field monitor, which I have plugged directly into the camera via HDMI. It's not the best or sharpest field monitor out there, and it doesn't record externally, which would be a cool feature to have. I don't have a monitor that does that currently, but it's going to get the job done for what we need. That said, if I had any additional clamps or small little friction arms, I probably would have put one between the sound recorder and the field monitor so that I have a little bit more flexibility to move it around if I wanted to. However, both of these devices are connected to the rig via a small friction arm here, so if I wanted to move it around, I technically could. I would just have to move both of them at the same time. Next up, let's talk about something that I didn't include on the initial list for some reason, and that's lighting. We have a simple lighting solution here on this camera rig. It is this little aperture light. This thing's awesome. It's only about 45 bucks or so, and it produces quite a bit of light. I like where it's mounted here because it's not directly down on top of the camera body. It's elevated at least a little bit, and I find that's a better placement because when the light shines out, sometimes the lens, especially if it's a longer one, can cast some shadows, and you don't want to pick those up. Moving on, let's talk about stability. Now, I didn't do a ton to this rig to account for additional stability, but there are a couple things in place here that will make sure that I have a good firm grip of the camera. The first being this little friction arm over on the side here. I found that when I put my hand on the side, it actually kind of helps to lock my hand in place there so that it can't kind of slip out or anything like that. And on the bottom, I have what I normally have, which is this little quick release plate. And if I wanted to, I could put a Gorilla Pod on here. Hold on. So here's my Gorilla Pod, and the way that I have this set up is I can easily just slip this on right like that, tighten it up, and then I've got some extra stability by the way of this Gorilla Pod. I could even turn it into kind of a makeshift shoulder mount if I want. And finally, let's talk about some of the other more unconventional accessories on this rig, starting with this little guy here. This is a battery pack. And assuming that you have the right cord for the right device, you could pretty much charge just about anything on the rig that you want. Currently, I have it plugged into the sound recorder. The sound recorder does take AA batteries, but it eats through them like crazy. And this battery pack, although it's small, lasts for quite a while, so I'm using the battery pack to charge that. I will say though that I wish this had a couple more USB ports on it, because then it could be powering more things at once, but this is all I got, so that's what I'm gonna work with. And finally, the most unconventional accessory on this rig is this right here. That's right, this is a Quest protein bar attached to the rig via this clamp here. We've all been there. You're working on a long shoot, you don't have a lot of time to put down the camera and go get a snack of some kind, so there you go, just put it right on your camera rig and take a bite whenever you're hungry. Problem solved. So at the end of the day, would I use a camera rig like this in any of my work or films that I'm making? Most likely no. This thing is definitely a bit of overkill, and I don't necessarily have the need to have all these things available to me at once. But why would you do it in the first place, you might ask? It was fun. Do you really need more of a reason than that? Anyway, thank you for watching this video. I'd love to know what else you think I could have added to this camera rig. Leave me a comment below and let me know what you think. And we'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.